So, Rena, hi, lovely to
Hi,
meet
Tal. How are you?
you. Please tell us a bit about
Okay.
your experience.
My name is Rena Quint, and I'm 86 years old. But it's a little confusing because Rena is my sixth name. I started the war when I was born in Poland, and my name was Fredja, or the Yiddish name was Fredel. And then when my mother and brothers were taken off to Treblinka, and I miraculously ran away from the synagogue in Pietrkov, um, a man took me to my father, who was working in a slave labor factory, and it was a man's camp. And my father realized that I couldn't be there as a girl. So he told me from now on, I'm 10 years old, I'm a boy, and my name is no longer Fredja, it's Froim. Froim, like a Froim. Remember that, your name is Froim, and you're 10 years old, and you're a boy. And I worked with the men. I worked very, very hard. But at one point, when the Allies were getting closer, they started sending people out of the camps. And I was in the Hortensia glass factory. It was a man's camp. And they sent us on these terrible cattle cars with no food, and nothing to drink, and no toilet. And you can imagine the terrible conditions. A lot of people just went crazy. Some people died. Some people hallucinated until we got to Germany. And when we got to Germany, we had to jump off those terrible trains, and we used the snow to eat it because we were so hungry, and we used the snow to drink it. And there was light because in the cars it was so pitch black. And while we were getting used to this new scene, there were two other camps which had men and women, Germans on motorcycles. They were clean, they were dressed beautifully with shiny black boots. We were filthy and disgusting looking. And they came, and with bullhorns, they made an announcement saying we're being taken to camps, men on one side, women on the other. My father realized that when you get into a camp, you have to get undressed. And if I would get undressed, they would say I'm not one of the men, and they would kill me, they would kill him, and anybody who else helped me. He met a school teacher, and he asked her whether she would keep an eye on me. He gave me a picture of my mother, my father, my brothers, and me, and he promised that the war is going to be over. Everybody's talking about the Allies coming, the Americans, the British, and the Russians were getting close. He promised he would meet me in our hometown. He never kept his promise. Fathers are supposed to keep their promises. I never saw him. But I did find a train schedule because I did a lot of research, and someone helped me when I wrote this book. And I found he went to Buchenwald. But I and my new mother were taken to Bergen Belsen with the women. The men went to Buchenwald, the women to Bergen Belsen. And just the way my father said we had to get undressed, I was holding my pictures in my hand, and one of the soldiers thought maybe I had a diamond or money or something valuable. He pried up my hand. All it was pictures. He must have been disgusted with me. He was hoping to find something of value. He tore them up and threw them away. To me, this was a terrible thing that happened because I don't know what my mother or my father or my brothers looked like at all. This woman and I and the rest of the women, we had to leave everything there, and we went into showers, and they were cold showers. My mother and brother, unfortunately, went into gas chambers in Treblinka. But in Bergen Belsen, there were showers. And when we came out, this good woman, I don't even remember her name, stole a black coat, and she kept the coat around me, and that gave me some warmth and her body heat. And I think I survived because she helped me. She didn't survive. But we were in Bergen Belsen. Everybody was sick with typhus and starving, and every day bodies were carried out. And I was very, very sick with typhus. Everybody was sick with typhus. And somehow or other, I found myself outside under trees. And something happened that day that never happened before. There were soldiers who came in speaking a different language, wearing different uniforms. And in this new language, which turned out to be English, they were British soldiers. They said, "You're free, you're free. We have come to free you. We brought you medicine, we brought you food, and you can do whatever you want." Well, by this time I'm 9 years old. I was 3 when the war started, 3.5. I don't have a mother. I don't have a father. When you have typhus, you can't see well, everything is dizzy. The British had a very hard time. The first thing they had to do was bury 10,000 unburied bodies. And unfortunately, we have lots of pictures to prove, because they took pictures and they got someone by the name of Oscar, whatever, from Hollywood, forgot his name, to Hitchcock. I'll have Hitchcock to take pictures, and they're all on YouTube. I had a new mother, but somehow or other she disappeared. I wrote a book called A Daughter of Many Mothers, Her Horrific Childhood and Wonderful Life. And that's about it. My child was horrific, but I had a wonderful life afterwards.
And
anyway, this mother.
Yes, this mother.
Well, she disappeared, but the British soldiers and Swedish people, Sweden was not at war, they were neutral, and they invited 6,000 survivors to Sweden. And I was lucky enough to be one of them. And they took me by stretcher to Lübeck, and from there to Malmö in Sweden. And I have a record. I have all this recorded because I don't remember these names. It's just now I have it in writing. To a camp in Sweden. And because I was so sick, I was taken to a hospital in a place called Hasselholm. And there a wonderful Swedish young, beautiful couple came, and they brought me a doll, and they brought me candy canes. It was Christmas time. And they asked if I'd like to go and live with them. Well, I thought that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I very much wanted to go with this Christian couple. But the people around me in the hospital said that I was Jewish. And I didn't know what it meant to be Jewish. I don't remember my mother lighting candles or having Passover, or I don't remember anything about my mother, certainly not what she did. Although I must tell you, I found a prenuptial agreement of my mother's. Wow. Where I know the kind of furniture she had and the kind of cloths she had. And I know all these things about her, except what she looked like and how she held me. Anyway, I didn't go with this Christian couple because they said that all the Jewish children would be taken to Palestine. And the reason I said Palestine is in 45, we had no Israel. So the orphan children were going to go to Palestine. So I went to a different camp, and there I met another mother. I was always lucky to meet women who became my mothers. Her name was Anna. Her brother had gone to the United States, and he sent her tickets for herself, her son and daughter to go to America. I was waiting to go to Palestine, but I had luck. This little girl died. Her death, unfortunately, was my luck. Her mother had tickets and passports and all the things she needed to come to the United States. And she asked me if I wanted to be her daughter and go with her to the United States. I always wanted to be somebody's daughter, and everybody said how lucky I was, and I can go to the United States and then go find my parents in Palestine later. So I went to the United States, and everything started off beautifully. We came there in the spring, and in the summertime, we went up to the mountains, and I went swimming, and I learned English, and I started very much becoming an American child, and people always helped me, and the children thought I was fun because I didn't know how to tie my shoes or how to do things that they taught me. And I was very happy to learn these things. But one day, Anna's family came and everybody looked very sad. And they said, pack up your things. By now, my name was Fanny. I forgot to tell you when you asked me my name. Every time I got a new mother, I also got a new name. But this time, Fanny died. And her mother asked me if I wanted to come with her. I got her name. I also got her birthday. I never had a birthday before. I didn't remember. And I had a new brother. And I wasn't born in Poland the way I told you, but I was born in Germany because I became that child. And everything was fine, but then Anna died. And they took me out, and it was the first time I saw somebody being buried. In Bergen Belsen, you just threw the bodies out. And everybody was crying except me. I didn't know you're supposed to be crying at a funeral. Anyway, after that, we went home, and Jewish people said Shiva, 7 days of mourning. And again, this family had a problem. I'm always somebody's problem. They brought over a woman who was going to be my mother. But now that she was dead, they really didn't want me. Somebody in that family knew a family in Brooklyn, New York, and I guess there was contact. And I was invited to go there for Shabbat. And I went, and I was told to behave. But behaving in Brooklyn, New York, and behaving in Bergen Belsen are different things. And I came there, and they couldn't have been nicer. And they gave me cookies, and there was chicken soup being cooked for Shabbat, and everything was beautiful. The only thing wasn't so beautiful is they had a little dog. And you know how scared I am of dogs. But I wasn't going to show them that I'm afraid of the dog, because maybe they liked the dog better than they liked me. And if they didn't like me, would they send me back to the camps? Would they send me to an orphanage? Would they send me in the street? Can you imagine a 9.5-year-old girl having to worry about that? Well, I was wrong. They liked me very much. And the next day they asked, would you like to stay with us instead of going back? Well, that was so wonderful. And my life changed completely. They gave me the name Rena. So coming back to the beginning, Rena, Fredel means joy. Joy in Hebrew means Rena. So that's how I got the name Rena. And in 1984, my husband and my 4 children, we made Aliyah, and I started volunteering in Yad Vashem. 1989, Yad Vashem had a trip to Poland, and I went back and I found my real birth certificate with my real name, and I found my parents' marriage license with the rabbi who married them. I found my brother's birth certificates, and I found my home. And on the door of the home, there was still a mezuzah, and the Polish woman let me in. And I have proof and I have pictures of everything I'm telling you. And when I wrote this book with Barbara Sofer, she even found my temperature chart in Sweden.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. I would like to hear more, but Rena, I would like to ask you, what would be the main insight you carry with you from those years? I know you went through a lot, but
I think I went through a lot, but I was luckier than some people. And maybe it's my outlook, or maybe I just was lucky, because every time I needed a mother, in quotes, I found somebody, or else they found me. Maybe they found me because they lost a little girl, so they took me. Maybe I don't know why, but that mother disappeared, I had someone else. That one disappeared. This book is a quilt of many mothers. And I think the fact that people, if somebody wants to do something good for you, let them do it. You never know. First of all, they get a mitzvah, they got a good thing doing it, and you get what you need. And it's gone through that way all along. And I don't think we have to forgive the Germans for what they did. And I don't think we have to forget, but you can't live with hatred. And now when you think about it, the Germans are not our worst enemy. We're much more worried about Iran and about other people who want to get rid of us. The Germans have provided people like me, Holocaust survivors, with medicine that we get discounts as Holocaust survivors. And I think that we have to remember the past. I think we have to speak about it, even if it's difficult, as often as people ask you to do so. Because if you forget the past, you won't know the future, and you could repeat it, and you can't do that.
Can I ask you, how was Biden's visit here for you?
It was very exciting. I don't know how they chose me. There are a lot of other survivors there, maybe because I'm American and I became an American citizen, maybe because I speak English, maybe. All I can tell you is that we were told that we shouldn't touch him, and we would just greet him, bow, and he would bow to us. And then Gita, the other survivor, and I stood up, and he went like this, sit down, and he came over, and I told him things that maybe it's not the right thing to do, but I was married to the most wonderful man for 60 years. And wherever we went, we were always holding hands, always. And Dr. Jill Biden and her husband, the president, always held hands. And I said to him, it makes me feel so good when I see them, because it reminds me of my husband and me. And he started to laugh, and he said, can I give you a kiss? And Wow, you know what? And I have pictures when he's kissing me and I put my arms around him. I mean, that's chutzpah. How do you do that to the most powerful person in the world? And he spoke to Gita and to me, and he told me about the tragedy he had when his first wife and child were killed, but he went on because he met his new wife, and he's proud that we have gone on and we have made life for ourselves. And we have lots of pictures. And then I said, Prime Minister Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz and the president of Israel were all there. And I said, with all these people, and Blinken, the secretary, well, all these people, maybe you can make peace for us. And if we can have peace, it would be the most wonderful thing.
So now I want to ask you, what would you think would be an important thing for you to say to the younger generations from you as a Holocaust survivor?
I think you have to learn to be good to each other, to talk to each other. I think everybody has to realize that war, nobody wins in a war. If you think about the Holocaust, sure, 6 million Jews died, but also millions of Americans and British and even the Germans. These are all God's people. And there's enough water, there's enough land, there's enough everything if we could learn to share. And I think we have to learn to love each other. And I think we have to ourselves laugh as much as we can and love as much as we can and do as many things as you can, because life can be short. I don't know how much longer I have, but I find that every day has an exciting kind of thing for me. My grandson wrote about what happened in Yad Vashem, but he also wrote that after that, I went to the recital of my 8-year-old daughter. She was dancing. And you can't give that up. You want to do that because that's part of life. And I do a lot of, I have something called Shabbat of a Lifetime, where I have Jews and Christians come to celebrate Shabbat with us. And
this is something the young generation has to know about forgiving, about sharing, about taking advantage of the life you have. Is this your message for them?
I do. I think you have to share, you have to love, you have to understand each other. And if there is an argument, talk it out and see. Do it in talking rather than in fighting and giving up. And never, ever give up. Never give up.